Hi, I'm Rio. I was born in Japan, grew up in Austria, Vienna, and now I'm a ballet teacher and spreading the arts of ballet in Japan, in Tokyo. はい、今日はちょっと英語での自己紹介だったんですけど、今日の動画は主に英語で話そうと思ってます。で、日本語もちょこちょこ入れますが、字幕を頑張って読んでいただけたら嬉しいです。はい。So today I'm going to be speaking in English because I want to reach a wider audience. And this is not my first language or my second, it's my third language, with German being my first. So it's not going to be so easy, but I'll try my best.
So last time, maybe 2 weeks ago, we had this video about how social media and basically the smartphone is giving the younger people a hard time and how it's harder to excel at ballet because of that. So could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so we did a whole video on that in Japanese, but basically we're talking about young people really losing confidence through the smartphone. First of all, because there is the video function on it, that means they can see themselves from a very early age. And they can see their flaws and their imperfections, and it's normal because they're children or young people. But in my time, there wasn't any tool like that. So that meant that we were just dancing out of fun or because we loved it, and we basically didn't know how it turned out or how we looked to the outside world, which is very different now because they can see, you know, every step they do, and the video doesn't really capture the fun or the expression of a person as well as the naked eye would see. So all you see is technical flaws or imperfections in your body, and I think it's very difficult for young people to really believe in a future that's a more developed version of themselves. Maybe they would be thinking what they see is what they're gonna get, and also, of course, through the media they see all these, so to say, perfect bodies and perfect, you know, technical dancers, and it's hard to see that they are the exception. There are very few of them, and what they're showing is only a very small aspect of ballet, you know, pirouettes mostly, or very high extension, or a very lean body, which is nice, but it's only part of what makes a dancer. So being exposed to all this information from the outside and also seeing oneself at a very early age, in the age where you're still developing, is detrimental, I think, for young people, you know, to keep up the faith in oneself during these times. I think it's really challenging. そう、だから前の動画でね、これ今話したのは前の動画でSNS がこういかにダンサーにとって難しいっていうか悪い影響を及ぼしてるっていう話をちょっと英語でしたんですけど、はい。
And so after that, you had a talk with your students.
We had a 5-hour talk. It wasn't intended to be. I just wanted to talk for an hour or so, but it was really interesting to hear their view on the whole thing. Because of course we all haven't experienced these times as a young person. この SNS についての話を若い人たちに聞いたんですね、最近。若者の視点の話ですね。And basically they were saying that it's very hard to tell what is true and what is not true, and that they were really hungry for information about ballet. So they really want to know what is good ballet, like what do they have to take care of, what is important, all the values, of course technical corrections as well, but that's the reason they are, you know, surfing the internet basically to find out more, because many of the teachers wouldn't give them satisfying answers or enough information. で、まあこうやっぱり情報がすごく欲しいダンサーが日本にはいっぱいいるっていうことが分かって、でだけどまあ先生から必ずしもこの全てを教えてもらえるわけじゃないから、結構 SNS で探すっていう形になっちゃって、まあ、たくさんの情報を取り込む、っていう風になってるみたいですね。So I asked them, well, how do you distinguish true and false information? その情報が合ってんのか合ってないのかどう調べるのって聞いた時に and they said that they would look into other accounts basically, like because most influencers are doing different media, you know, not just YouTube or just Instagram. And then if they see like another side of them which doesn't cohere with the image they gave in one of the highlighted videos, they would become suspicious. So they would be like, oh, well, maybe that's not really, this person is not really the person he claims to be. And they said that they basically need not only like short glimpses of a person to really know how they are, but they have to see them in a longer time span basically, or they have to see them talk longer or dance longer, not just a variation or just a turn. So they said that basically these short snippets of information are very difficult for them to judge whether they are truly that person that they claim to be. 動画とかが結構短かったりするから、その短い情報でその人が本当に例えば回転がものすごくできるとして素晴らしいダンサーだと思っちゃうかもしれないけど、それをじゃあ長い動画でその人の踊りを見た時に、そうでもなかったりした時にやっぱりこの人の言ってることって信じられるのかなってちょっと信憑性が落ちるっていう感じはあるみたいですね。でやっぱり人について本当にこう判断するにはもっと長い情報というか長い話だったり、踊りもね3分とか2分とかのバリエーションだけじゃなくてこう全幕ものとか見ないとわからないっていうふうに感じてるみたいですね。Yeah, so that was really interesting to see that they are critical themselves, and that they're constantly searching. もうなんかずっと探してる感じですね。真実を探してるっていう感じ。And so when they came here to ABS, they were surprised to see basically that I could answer the questions. Like these are mostly technical questions or like about the basics of ballet, but they were surprised that I wouldn't hesitate to answer the questions because of course my teaching is has a sound foundation. So everything is a result of that base knowledge and base method of using the body, and every question can be answered based on that basically. So it wouldn't be difficult for me to answer the questions, and which was new to them, they said. So in the old schools that they were at, they did ask a question, but the teacher would kind of think for a long time or not have a satisfying answer. And they felt that talking to a real person and getting information from a real person, also interactive, is just so much more worth than getting one-sided information from a channel. And so they were really happy to find us because we could engage in a dialogue with them. And そう先生に質問した時にちゃんと答えが返ってくるっていうのが ABS ではすごくみんな嬉しかったって言ってくれて、あんまり悩んだり長く考えてから答えるっていうかはパンとねちゃんと的確な返事が返ってくるっていうのがABS ですごい嬉しくて、やっぱり新鮮だったっていう話ですね。
So one thing you learned is that the students are very hungry for information and they're looking for the right information. But then you also got the impression that they maybe be exposed to too much information, which gives them a hard time to really explore their true potential as well.
Yeah, well, the kind of information they get is the information that can be transported through the media of internet or video. And it's oftentimes, it's very short, so it's not very deep. So teachers wouldn't be talking about what is ballet or why is it an art form or what are we trying to do, what are we giving back to humanity. All these really important questions are not being touched on because that's not something you can handle in 30 seconds or short snippets. So the information they would get from the videos is mostly like how are the muscles built, anatomy basically, how is the body built, how would you do a plie so it's not straining for the knee, or how would you do a pirouette, and even that theme, the the suggestions would go into 1,000 directions, and everybody's saying something else, and they would be already overwhelmed with the information. But because they're growing up in this world of information, this society of information, they are not really able to read between the lines or to work their imagination to find the answers. So what that means is, for instance, when you would want to express that there is a secret lying there, and you want to, go on the journey and, reach that goal, then these things would not be taught through words in a real class, but the teacher would put on the music, and then he would be like, and go off or whatever. And a dancer in my age would understand that with very few words, like go on the search, yeah, something like this. Whereas the children now, or the young people, they would need much more information to get the same result. Like they would need to know, what character am I, where am I going, what does it mean, mysterious, which colors would that involve, is there mist, is it like a positive vibe, or is it like suspicious, or is it magical, or so you would have to really talk about all these details for them to be able to get a picture, and then they would try that same movement. And I don't think that teachers have the time to do that, really. So I'm taking the time to do that. But I think that if a ballet teacher gives a workshop or teaches a class to people who just do, they'd be like, okay, let's go, next scene. Maybe they try to get out more, but there is a limit in a class. There is a time limit, so you can't really explain all that they want to know and give them all the information they need to know. But because they are growing up in this information society, they are used to make up their thoughts through information and not through association or feeling what the teacher is trying to express. この情報社会の中で育ってる子たちがやっぱりこの情報をたくさん与えないと頭の中でなんか映像っていうかイメージを作るのがすごい難しくなってるっていうのがあるみたいで、歴史的背景とかその森だったらその森がその不思議な森とかね、そういうのもその不思議の意味もわからなかったり、その何が不思議なのか教えてほしいとか、何色なのかとか、具体的にどんな木が生えてるのかとか、そういうのは想像したらわかるでしょうって私と世代は思うんですけど、そういうのがあんまり浮かんでこないから、本当にこう情報で全部注文していかないと不思議な森に向かって答えを探すみたいな動きは出てこないんですよね。で、そういうことをしてる先生が、まず先生はそんな時間がないと思うし、そんなに気長に付き合ってくれる人もあんまりいないと思うし、そうするとやっぱり芸術が低下していくっていうふうになるんですよね。So basically the arts will just decrease in quality. It'll just go down because the teachers will not be able to give them all this information that they need. Or today I was speaking about assembly. So it's a jump, and with all jumps, there's timing of the arms. So you use the timing of the arms to jump, especially for boys. The boy would ask me, when I said, no, it's not the right timing, he would ask me, well, do I have to do it quicker, like earlier or later? And I said, that's not what I want to get at. I want you to feel the right timing, like in sports. But he wanted very concrete information. And when I explained to him that even if I gave him information now, he would not be able to recreate it for himself the next day because he didn't feel it, So even if I give him information or I don't give him information, the point is that he feels it. And I think that's just the much faster solution, because once he feels it, he can do it anytime. But they believe in the power of information so much that they think that if they do everything right, even if they don't feel it, it's gonna work. And that's just not the case. なんかアッサンブレーのジャンプとかでもこのタイミングっていう話、タイミングってそもそも早いとか遅いとかそういうことだけじゃなくて、ちょうどこうしっくりくるっていうそのアッサンブレーのタイミングとか、そういう話をした時になかなか通じにくいっていうのがあったりするので、でまあそれを説明するとよくわかるんですけど、やっぱり基本設定としては情報を与えてほしい、先生に情報を求めるっていうのがすごいあるのが、そんなことしてるともうなんか時間がなくなってしまうよって思うんですね。この芸術の仕事だから、その感じ取ってくれるものが9割ぐらいないと1割インフォメーションあげるけど、So 90% of what the dancers do should come out of what they feel and what they see and imitate, and maybe 10% is information, or they have to go back home and study about the time and the history. They need to do that, so they can't expect the ballet master or the choreographer to tell them everything about the era that they are portraying at that time. So I just feel that they are not really used to doing the homework and used to putting, to adding 1 + 1 and getting their own results. And rather they're waiting for the results or for the information to be served to them. And it's not their fault, I understand, but it's not going to work. They're not going to be professional that way.
Yeah, I felt a common thing, like in acting, for example, in more theater or movies, that kind of work that you expect the dancer to do, that should be done by the dancers themselves. They should be proactive enough to, and they need to fill in the different parts of the information to actually make the performance happen. But that's always the homework for the actor, the performer, to do.
Yeah.
So them expecting that to be fed to them almost feels like they're more like robots that are, outputting only what they're being put in.
Right.
So,
and even AI are learning.
So maybe AI can perform better because they have more information.
They might. Well, obviously they don't have a soul, but other than that, yes.
Yeah. So maybe it's the expectation that they assume that they get more information than they should.
Right.
Is the problem.
I just think that when they're students, when they're young, I can explain that to them, and they will develop. They will be different in 2 years, and they will know how to tackle these things better. But when they're already grown, when they're 19, 20, and they come into the company, and the choreographer for the first time demands these things, the choreographer will not tell them to please go home and read this novel or study about the Middle Ages in Europe, because he assumes that the dancer has certain knowledge and certain cultural education that he can count on when he's talking about something. And if you have a choreographer who would give you these hints, that would be very kind, but I don't think everybody will be like that. So then you would be thrown out of the cast, or you will not be cast anyway. So it really has implications at the workplace. 子供の頃はね、そういうことを先生が説明して、で私はすごいそういう説明するんですけど、それをどう説明していいのかわからない先生もきっといるし、子供たちがなんでそんなに何にも準備してこないのかもわからない先生もいると思うので、こういうビデオを作ってるんですけど、子供の頃は教えると多分育つと思うんですけど、大人になってバレエ団に入ってコレオグラファーに何かを求められた時に、それについて知らないし、勉強もしないし、どうそれについて調べていいのかもわからない、そしてその動きのニュアンスもわからないではやっぱりお仕事にならないんですよね。
The power to improvise or to kind of make things up or use the imagination, that's really declining from what you got from the students.
Definitely. And I hear it from other teachers, I hear it from choreographers and company directors, and it's the same everywhere. It's not just in Japan. 全世界の問題で本当にそれは 世界のコレオグラファーとか振付家、ディレクター、先生、みんなが嘆いてることなので、私はなんかもうこの問題ともう向き合うしかないって思ってるんですよね。これからもずっと教えていく中で若い世代が変わるとは思えない、良くなるとは思えないから、So for me, I feel like I have to tackle this subject because I'm gonna be still around in decades, I hope, and the students will not grow up in a different environment, not a better environment than now. So I have to know what their problem is so I can tackle it. But I think that many teachers just don't understand what's happening. Why are people so passive? Why do they not understand? Well, like, why are they not watching the teacher and imitating, waiting to be fed? And I think it's just really important that we talk about it and also talk to the students so that they get aware, get awareness. だから生徒たちがまず意識することから始まると思うので、先生もそういう話を生徒たちとできたら、そういう仕組みが分かったらね、生徒たちに実はあなたたちはこうなってて、こういう社会で30年前はこうだったっていう話をしたら聞いてくれると思うんですよね、結構。I think what is better to do than banning the phone is to teach them how to use the phone, because it can be a very powerful tool, and I think it can be used to their advantage as well. So one thing I suggested is to select an artist that you really admire and watch all movies and all clips and everything that's out from that one artist, and watch them over and over and over, and not just the variations but like the whole act, the full act ballets, and watch the whole thing, and don't just scroll to the place that you want to see. That way you can absorb a lot of things, while you're watching your favorite dancer. You can also see what the corps de ballet is doing and how they are helping the scene to flourish, and you can see the acting scenes, and you can see the parts that maybe otherwise you wouldn't be watching. So I think because that's the way how we watched things, is because we only had 5 videos, maybe all of us, and we were all watching the same thing. So basically we were watching Baryshnikov and Cynthia Harvey's ABT's Don't Q, and we were watching Alessandra Ferri's Romeo and Juliet, and we were watching Carla Fracci's and Eric Bruhn's Giselle, and we watched The Turning Point. This was a movie, and very limited, things that we were watching, and all of us knew. And because there was so little out there, we just watched it over and over and over. And because it was VHS, it just was used up, and the quality was really low in the end. But it just showed that we were really watching it. And also because it was VHS, our parents would tell us not to always fast forward or rewind because it damages the tape. And so now, you can fast forward or rewind, and it has no implications because it's data, but it's a physical tape, So the more you go over it, it's just used up. And so we had to basically watch the whole thing, the whole Don Q or the whole Swan Lake, Evelyn Hart and Peter Schaufus, the whole Swan Lake or Romeo and Juliet from beginning to end. And that way we really got a lot of information about every aspect of the whole show. And this is how they could, for instance, use the phone. So of course it's a good idea to not use the phone in the studio when you're remembering choreography, because you're supposed to memorize it yourself anyway, and also you can go in groups and work together to remember steps. How it's gonna be anyway in the company, because you can't film rehearsals, but to learn how to use this media better. だから今ちょっと話したのはこの好きな携帯の使い方なんですけど、なんか好きなアーティストを例えば選んで、そのアーティストの例えばニュネスさん、マリアネラ・ニュネスさんのファンだったら、その彼女が踊ったもの全部もう徹底的に見て研究して、いろんなものを少しずつ見るじゃなくて、一人のものを徹底的に全部見る。でそのインタビューとか プライベートの映像でもいいけど全部見て、その全幕もの特に最初から最後までっていうのも何回も見たりするとバレエについて学べるものがいっぱいあるんですよね。だからそうやってなんかこう使い方をちょっと挑戦していくっていうのも一つで、短いものをたくさん見るんじゃなくて特定のものをしっかりじっくり何回も見るっていう、I feel that the students are not aware of ballet being an art form that is passed on from generation to generation, from person to person, and that it's very valuable to get information from the earlier artists because they are closer to the roots, obviously. If it's about a piece that is created now, then of course you need to go to the choreographer now and study. If it's Forsyth, then you study about Forsyth. But when you study Swan Lake or you're studying a Petit Pas ballet, which was done in the 19th century, end of 19th century, then the older the teacher, basically, the more he would be, the closer he would be to the source, obviously. But this is not how students necessarily perceive this the tradition. They would think that something that's new is better than something that's old, and so I wouldn't even call it old. I would call it authentic or original. Original in the sense of origin. But so they would watch videos that are put out now about Swan Lake or Romeo and Juliet, and something that's traditional, and they would prefer watching that and studying that rather than going back to Marcia Haydée and Richard Cragen in Stuttgart doing Romeo and Juliet, which was also one of the basic videos that everyone knew, because they think the new information is more up to date, and there are some aspects that have gotten better, like the amount of periods maybe, or the lines sometimes, not always, but sometimes are getting better. Yes, that's true, but the piece in itself hasn't developed always. In very few examples it has maybe, but mostly you would get more of the essence watching an older video, or watching the old one and the new one in comparison. So that would be a good way to watch something. So that something new is always better than the old thing. I mean, I always tell them it's not your smartphone. I understand the smartphone, the 16 is better than the 13. Although even that I sometimes don't agree because of the photos. But yeah, basically that's the way of thinking. And if I tell them, well, it's like wine, that gets better with age, or it's like a soup that you really cook for a long time, or maybe over days it just gets richer in flavor, and they understand that, but they just haven't really applied it to ballet, I think. 新しいものが良くて古いものが時代遅れっていう考え方を持ってるダンサーも結構いるので、Yeah, I was really, really shocked when one of the dancers said that he thought that Baryshnikov is one of the very good dancers that ever existed, and he didn't know that he's a legend, that he changed the ballet world forever on Rave. It's like just one of the K-pop stars, basically, comparing them to the Beatles, for instance. It's just really not the same, and I understand they're great. The artists now, they're very good and they're trained and they have these dance numbers, but to be a legend, there is more to it. They live in a zeitgeist and they changed history, and they were pioneers in whatever they were doing, and they, of course, they were great in their abilities, and all this makes a legend, I think. And they just that Baryshnikov is not viewed that way. It's just really, really shocking. So, but how can I blame them? I mean, nobody's telling them. The videos are not so good in quality compared to the videos that they put out now. And they prefer to watch high definition videos rather than the old quality. So I can't really blame anyone, but it's our job as ballet teachers to really understand where they're at, where the students at, and really try to get them back to the roots, to the knowledge that we have, so we can build on that. So we speak the same language, you know, they must understand what we're talking about, and for that we need to understand what they're talking about. And also this communication between teacher and student, I think, is not always there. So that's why I'm doing all this, you know, I'm trying to build this bridge between these generations, because it's our job to help them. I think we have to point them towards the important videos, the important names, the important organizations and ballet companies that they really need to know that ballet was built on them. And one idea I'm working on right now is to start a video library of all the variations, you know, that everyone wants to do variations, and talk about the different versions and which versions are worthy, the versions that are worthy to be kept as originals, and versions which were just changed for one dancer's preference of steps or tempi, like something that's supposed to be fast but was changed to a slower tempo so one ballerina could do it easier. And so I really want to get them back to the roots of why this is supposed to be fast, or why this step is supposed to be 4 times and not 3 times. And there are reasons to all that. So I want to give them the actual videos, like point them to the links or give them the videos that they should go to when they learn a variation, and also explain about the reasons and the historical sources. And I'm planning to work with very famous artists, famous ballet dancers and ballet masters to help me with this project. So it's not just, you know, my saying, but it's really comes from an authority. And even that, you know, the authority that I feel that artists have, the young people might not necessarily know these people, you know. So I asked them if we had like a famous YouTuber, a ballet YouTuber here, or Bershnikov, for instance, like who would be more valued? And they thought about it for a long time. Like 10 seconds. And I was like, oh, you know, these are the times we live in. So like a famous YouTuber is as big a star as a legend, because they don't know the difference, you know?
Yeah, because I've seen a video these, you know, like very recently, talking about how Michael Jackson is a good beatboxer.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, what are you talking
He's
about?
the king of pop, and you know, yeah.
Like it feels almost rude to the point that, you know, people don't understand the context of how things developed and how people don't appreciate it anymore. So that's
and they were talking about, you know, how they could do some of the tricks, but they didn't have, you know, the soul that he had. And obviously, like, he's one of the greatest artists that ever lived. So
yeah, and so the YouTubers are saying, "Oh, this guy is really good," and it's like, of course he's good.
Yeah, but you know, me or you saying like, hello, it's Michael Jackson, you know, or it's Baryshnikov, or it's Nureyev, or it's Makarova. They'll be like, who is this? Never heard, you know. 私は今ちょっと考えてる企画があって、そのみんなやっぱりその何が本物なのかも分からなくなってるから、このビデオ集みたいなのを作ろうと思ってて、その中にこのバリエーションの元になるような、模範になるようなバリエーションの動画を集めようと思ってて、でそのバージョンについていろいろ説明する。なんでこのテンポが大事なのかとか、なんでこのステップは4回する、3回じゃなくて4回するのかとか、なんでここはブリゼーでアンドシャシスじゃないのかとか、そういうことを説明していきながら、その模範ビデオかリンクをこう分かるようにこう並べていきたいと思ってて、 でそのために、有名なバレエ権威のある方たちに助けてもらおうと思ってるんですけど、その有名な方たちがもう私から見たらもうはってもう本当にもう尊敬しかないような人でもこの生徒たちには誰それってなったりするから、まずこういう話をしないと、土台を作らないとね、何も始まらないのかなっていう感じですね。
Yeah, so there's still a long road ahead. Lots to do.
Yes, and I don't think it's gonna get any better, so I have to get to work. ご視聴いただきありがとうございました。よろしければチャンネル登録お願いします。